I think we can finish the Roche. So, and then halfway through it, they decide, okay, I think it's a better idea to try and kill heroes before we try to go Roche. So he jumps up, but enemy heroes respawn, they dive too deep, and they overcommit. So it's more like they weren't really on the same page at the heat of the moment. They were very hesitant. Like we talked about Vichy before, sometimes they might be having too many of a different idea. And, you know, during the heat of battle, you want to have someone just saying, okay, guys, we're just going to go back, no more arguments, and it would it would have avoided a lot of the stuff that happened after that.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but in the reality,
yeah, it's difficult.
It's really
like someone would be
difficult.
yelling like, I think we can do this, then you're like, okay, you sort of get the confidence from your team.
Even if it's false confidence sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even just the heat of the moment for that particular game. It's a big game in particular for Vichy. They need this win just to try to stay alive in the upper bracket. So you could chalk a bit of it to nerves, but these guys are world class. You hope that they kind of are able to put those, you know, anxious feelings aside, but it is pretty apparent when you see them splitting apart, trying to come together. It's a bit of a hot mess.
There's too much indecisiveness, I feel.
Yeah, a lot of it did seem like a scramble. We'll take another look at a situation here in that game one, and maybe we'll be able to see that for Vichy Gaming.
With the rocket flying out,
I really like the itemization from the DK. He was like so tanky that you can't initiate on him. If you go on him with like the Storm or the Sand King, especially if he's solo, you're going to lose the fight. And if he gets his BKB off, like as the Storm's zipping in or as the Epi's coming out, you lost the fight. And of course they have Silencer to back him up, a very nice hook shot, but he got so many kills with that Blink Dagger and was just able to just keep them disabled for so long. Sure, they have Grave, but they can't do anything. And we said like, oh yeah, Gyrocopter, he gets Graved, he does his thing, but BKB Dragon Knight doesn't really care. He has so much armor, he can take the flank, he has BKB for all the magic damage.
Yeah, and so let's assume that then, even if Vichy Gaming had played that pretty well and they were on the same page altogether, do you think the way Newbie played, they still would have been able to pull out the victory? Because it seemed like Newbie was definitely on the same page. They knew what their idea was, why they picked their certain heroes.
I think it would have been a really close match, but I would have definitely favored Vichy's Gaming's lineup if the game goes late. They're on Dire. They have better late game with Storm and Gyrocopter compared to what Newbie had. It was the Dragon Knight plus the Queen of Pain. They don't scale as well. So I feel if both of the teams executed, it would be a really action-packed game. And when it goes down to the wire, Vichy's lineup would come out on top.
Okay. Then, do you think for Vichy, I mean, regardless of, again, the implications that go forward into the bracket stage for them, still winning a game, even if you're in the lower bracket, it matters, right? Going in knowing, like, all right, we still drew against a lot of the teams. We know we can take them if it's in or just a best of one, or then going forward, like best of series later on. What do they change here? I mean, it sounds like the draft wasn't really the problem. Do they just say, hey, let's just calm down a little bit and move on, let's just focus on the game? Or do they say, hey, let's just try something completely new in terms of the draft?
I mean, I wouldn't mind that, and that's what I was saying before. I wouldn't mind a little bit of that innovation, that little bit of flair that they used to have, particularly with like Ice 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 and letting them really explore that off lane a bit and have some fun. Because as it stands right now, I mean, maybe just because of the implications of that match, they just felt a bit on edge, a bit miscommunicated. I hope they're able to shake that off and have a bit more fun with it, but it's hard to say. They take this game very, very seriously. All these players do. I'm sitting there eating lunch, and half of them are already eliminated, and they're getting tears in my eggs. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, so you can just see the passions there. So I don't know, after you take a hard hit like that and you kind of accept the fact that's okay, we're going to have to battle it out now through best of ones. You know, maybe they will consider changing things up here for game two.
Yeah, what do you think, Ben? I mean, again, this is something we've discussed time and time again throughout this week. Was it the draft, or even if the draft wasn't the problem, bringing in that fresh air through the draft, does that help the team?
Yeah, it's not. I definitely don't think it's a draft. I mean, last year they had ROTK as their leader, and ROTK, as we well know, is a very animated guy. He seems pretty happy-go-lucky and just generally great at boosting his team's morale. And I was watching their picture cam as we were going to the game, and Ice 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 was the only one who's like laughing and looking pretty jolly. And in general, he's pretty much the only one who interacts a lot, I think, with a lot of the non-Chinese players and community. So I hope that they can take some of his vibe, some of his aura, and not go too hard on themselves, not like get too heated about disagreements about who was right, who was wrong in a certain call in the game, and just have faith in one another, play as a team.
All right, and as you just saw on the screen, quick update is that IG beat Na'Vi in the very first game of their series, so 1-0, only one game left. I believe that still has implications with Complexity beating Fnatic. Between IG and Fnatic, who gets to be in the top half of the bottom four?
Yeah, it's something if IG are able to 2-0 Na'Vi here, which a lot of people weren't sure was going to happen, but they actually looked really good in
Ferrari
game
went
one.
godlike.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, yeah, IG was looking a little bit rocky throughout this week, but it sounds like we do have a highlight. Before we take a look at the standings, we'll jump and check out how that game panned out for IG versus Na'Vi in game one.
Bowling from far away, and you force the song team.
And Storm Spirit is out of control. Ferrari is mega farmed and has slayed so many of Navi's heroes. I think it was like a 15-2 start, if not worse, for Na'Vi, and they're just struggling to get any sort of kills, even with some very aggressive heroes like Bloodseeker and Queen of Pain.
I don't think they had the right supports as well to deal with the Brute. The Brute might have actually caught them by surprise. CM and Naga generally don't deal with the Brute that well. If she gets out of control, you can't really catch the Brute with the two supports like this that easily. Of course, there's a song, but it's still difficult to catch the Brute out. So
Wasn't the idea to just let Brute alone, though, versus Bloodseeker?
did they actually put... Oh, did they actually do that? Because I didn't catch the... early
Yeah,
part.
Havos was Bloodseeker. I don't know. I'm just assuming that's probably what they did.
Right, yeah, we
because
didn't
Dendy
get
was
to
mid,
see.
Funnick on Centaur. But regardless, they got crushed.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of the plan, and Na'Vi not able to pull it through. And we were half joking about this earlier in the week. We were like, we're going to see the Brute slip by at least another time. It's going to come up. It's going to catch another team a little bit off guard. And it sounds like that's what happened here. Of course, Ferrari performing.
It's just one of those heroes you just can't. You just feel so stupid after dropping a match versus a Brute that you didn't prepare for. You're just like, okay, we should have banned it. And then 10 games later, it happens again. And it will happen. Like once out of 20 games, once out
Right.
of 30 games. It just depends on the frequency of how often you let it slip through.
Yeah, very true. But so again, IG still, even if you're in the lower bracket, it again matters if you get to choose your opponent or not. So they're looking to really fight for that option. As we take a look at the standing really quick, IG versus Fnatic. If IG can take this, they will move on up and knock Fnatic down to the bottom two of Group A. Fnatic then will not have a choice in their opponent when we go into the bracket stage. MVP Phoenix sitting comfortably at 6 points. They'll have their choice. And MVP Phoenix, a bit of a surprise in Group A, I feel. I mean, most people were saying, if anything, Hot Six is the team that's going to perform out of the two MVP teams. But Phoenix coming in, showing some really solid games in Group A, and now they might even have a chance to survive one or two more steps.
I wonder if they're going to choose their sister team.
That-
That's how it looks right now.
Would you? I mean, that's an interesting question because you know them really well. That's
Yeah.
one thing, and you can see that they're not doing very well right now. But I wonder if that would create some tension.
Yeah,
with
part
their
of you is like maybe you want to see one of you succeed also.
That's true. That then Phoenix can, the argument there if Hot Six gets mad can be like, well, hey, look, at least one of us will move up at this point. So
We'll split it.
it's a win-win, right? Kind of for the organization. That's an interesting thing to look at. Maybe we might very well see that happen when we later look at the draws for next week as we prepare for the main event. But for now, both teams in our match are getting ready for game number 2. Newbie going up against Vici Gaming, and Newbie looking to get a win on the scoreboard. They've had 4 draws so far and 1 loss, and getting a 2-0 would be a nice confidence boost. Again, for a team, I mean, we heard Moose say it too, just not as much pressure this time around for a number of reasons, and a big thing being that a lot of people didn't expect Newbie to do that well. So they're just taking it step by step, looking at each game, and he said himself, he's like, all right, well, if we make top 8, then we think about top 3. If we make top 3, then maybe we'll think about, okay, now we have a shot at the championship. But until then, we're not going to jump ahead.
Then we unleash Death Ball version 2. Everyone freaks out. I mean, who really knows with Newbie? It seems like maybe they're easing by. They're like, well, we'll take the wins when we need to, and, we'll see how it goes from
They're
there.
not doing
and
anything
take the next
super
step.
unusual, though.
Yeah.
I doubt they have any secret strategies at all. I mean, they might incorporate some from other teams, but as of novel ones of their own, I think they're just looking to execute better than everyone else. Because that's what they did last year. They just took what others had and made it better, their own version and their own twist.
Right. It wasn't that they necessarily brought in those strategies, but they were looking at what VG Gaming was doing and saying, all right, well, we can actually do that in a different way and do it a little bit better. And if they can do that here, and sometimes, again, that goes to the adaptation part. You don't always have to be the one that brings in the freshest of ideas. You just have to be prepared to either take it and make it your own or counter it, of course. And that's another option to be able to move forward. Winter, what do you expect from Newbie? I mean, they're looking better and better, I feel, day by day.
Yeah, I think they are definitely improving. and a lot of the games they lost before were really close. So improvement is definitely a positive thing to take for your team when you're going by a group stage and going into the grand finals. And I expect them to get better because that's how they're doing right now. I think they'll have a very good chance to beat Vichy 2-0 if they just pick their comfort heroes. And Vichy seems like they're going to make a lot of mistakes. So newbie just needs to be stable themselves and just wait for the mistakes to come, capitalize on them, don't make your own mistakes or minimize them. And I think newbie will be in a very good shape to take
All
this
right.
game.
Well, we're about to find out if they can close this one out. That's definitely a good sign for newbie. If they draw again, also not necessarily a bad sign, just a better sign for Vichy Gaming, of course. The draft has started for game number 2, and it looks like same sides with Vichy, this time banning out that Bounty Hunter, and then the Gyro too.
Vichy has first pick again, and I don't really think that Gyro was that big a problem. I think if they first pick Gyro, it'd be fine. But having Queen of Pain, I also thought Moo played a really fantastic Queen of Pain last game.
Shadow Fiend possibly coming right here, Radiant side.
The thing is, it doesn't seem like newbie wants to go that route because they could have easily had it last game, right? I think
That's true.
the difference in between, like, I view DK and Shadow Fiend like sort of similar in terms of like lane strength. They don't necessarily win out both of their lanes, but Shadow Fiend just more heavy farmer, way better in a late game, but DK can really set the pace. He's like up in front, he doesn't really need that many items, and most importantly, he can take towers down, which I think was a really nice plan versus Vichy. Like, the Gyro never really had time to just free farm the whole entire game and stack Ancients and do normal Gyro things. He had to always contribute to his team, he had to buy BKB very early and, you know, try and help out, which, I mean, he's good at, but if you're purely doing that, there are better options.
Shaker Lina and the Rubik just being secured right away this time, not waiting and giving newbie a chance to secure that, which did leave the Dazzle, so Vichy Gaming, they will band that out as they don't have the very next pick after this.